This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Work can be a little weird. Cringy training seminars, coworkers who won't stop talking about their plant, forgetting the mute button at an inopportune moment. We have to deal with a lot on any given workday. Sometimes it can feel hard to thrive and move forward in your career. Well, that's where LinkedIn comes in. LinkedIn helps you get ideas and insights from experts in your field, connect with people professionally, grow your network, and access tools designed to help you find the right fit for your next role. Whether you're just getting started, figuring out your next move, or looking to accelerate your career, LinkedIn is built to support you at every stage because LinkedIn is the network that works for you. Visit linkedin.com/knowstuff to learn more. The springtime thaw is finally here. Flowers are blooming, days are longer. We're saying yes to more plans and finally getting outside, running, walking, just moving again. It's the perfect time to upgrade your everyday go-tos with Bombas. Take Bombas sport socks. They're super comfortable and designed with sport-specific tech for running, cycling, yoga, hiking, you name it. I use them to run in, and I can tell you they work beautifully. So head over to bombas.com and use code SYSK for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com, code SYSK at checkout. Hey everybody, it's me, Josh, and for this week's Select, I've chosen our Cleveland Torso Murders episode from May 2021. Once in a while we do some true crime episodes, and in my opinion, this might be our best one ever. It's a semi-little known series of gruesome killings that became an engrossing story with a lot to keep up with. I should probably mention there's a lot of frank talk about some really grisly stuff in here, so be forewarned. Hope you enjoy it, as much as one can enjoy this kind of stuff.
Welcome to Stuff You Should Know, a production of iHeartRadio.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Josh. There's Chuck. Jerry's out there somewhere with a magnifying glass and a toothpick. We don't know what the toothpick's for, but this is Stuff You Should Know.
Yes, content warning episode, everybody. This is one of our, I was about to say rare. They're fairly rare, but one of our true crime episodes that is very grisly. Gruesome, but took place in the 1930s. So there's something about old and gruesome that makes it a little more palatable for me.
Totally. I don't know why, but you're absolutely right.
Time, I guess, you know?
Yeah. Time heals all wounds, including the torso murders.
Yes, it does. Well, it heals all wounds except for some of the things that happened in the torso murders because you can't come back from that.
It's pretty crazy. You were familiar with the torso murders already, right?
I had heard of these, and the more I read about them, the more I was shocked that there wasn't a good period movie about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but if you haven't heard of the torso killer, that's fine. You're definitely not alone. A lot of people haven't, which is kind of surprising because they're unsolved murders. There were a lot of them, and they took place in the background of a city that was like driven into a frenzy by this ghastly serial murderer who continued their murders despite this extraordinarily large, manhunt to try to find them. An unsuccessful manhunt still to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it has all the makings of a good movie. It's got and we'll reveal who this person is. We'll hang on to it for a second. But it's got a famous investigator.
Oh, sorry, yes. He definitely was the famous investigator.
Yeah. Oh, you thought I meant who the murderer was?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got some false starts. You've got some Coen Brothers-esque whimsy with the dog discovery.
Yeah. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I did like that. And it has all the makings of a great movie and a cool period setting, which was Depression-era, 1930s, Cleveland, Ohio.
Which is almost indistinguishable from current day 2021 Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, come on. We love Cleveland.
Hey, man, I'm from Toledo. I can totally bag on Cleveland and Detroit. That's my birthright.
That is your birthright. So let's go back to September of 1934 when a woman's torso is washed up on the shore of Lake Erie. Her legs are amputated below the knee. There is no head, which is why I said torso, and arms.
It's a suspicious way to find a body.
A very suspicious way. She was never identified. They called her the Lady of the Lake, and this was just sort of the beginnings. Nothing was put together at this point because it would be 2 years before any other murders took place, and that they finally sort of put together that the Lady of the Lake was perhaps victim 0, really victim 1, but they called her victim 0 of who would become known as the Torso Murderer, or the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury.
Yes, Kingsbury Run. And like you said, it'd be about 2 years before they started to connect the dots. But in that time, between the time the Lady of the Lake was found, about a year passed. And then all of a sudden, 2 more bodies were found. And now all of a sudden, because 2 bodies were found together, this really started to capture people's attention. The Lady of the Lake, it was a weird thing. It was a terrible thing to find, but it was singular. This was, but like by definition, not singular, finding 2 bodies at once that were both dismembered. And they were found in that area of Kingsbury Run, which is where the Mad Butcher takes his name.
That's right. They were both men in this case. They were castrated. They were also decapitated, which would become sort of a signature. The decapitation and or any kind of dismembering really would become the signature hallmark of this murderer. And it's interesting in that victim 1 of these 2 men was actually one of the only ones that they got a fairly positive ID for. They actually got some fingerprints, and it matched a man named Edward Andrassy. And he was sort of a petty thief that had, the police had brought in before. So he was believed to be gay, and this, if he was, which all accounts say that he was, this was at a time when, in the 1930s, certainly it was still illegal, and it was also listed as a mental disorder in the, what's it called? Not the DMV.
DSM. The DMV. The DMV didn't look too highly on it either.
No, that's right. So he, I think, was one of only 2 that was ever even positively identified of what would end up being probably 13, maybe 12 murders.
Yes. And again, these guys were found together, not together like they were like within, a very short distance of one another, so that they were found virtually at the same time. And whenever you find, a body missing its head, that is attention grabbing. And when you find 2 bodies both missing their heads, that really starts to get the press's juices running. And like we said, these were found around Kingsbury Run. And Kingsbury Run is basically like an old riverbed that cuts through, I believe, the west side of Cleveland. I think the east side of Cleveland, down to the Cuyahoga River. And it was basically like the place where all of the oil companies and all of the heavy industry along the river and along the lake would dump all of their waste. The city put a sewer in there. It was just meant to be kind of like a wasteland, like a literal wasteland. And it kind of stayed that way until the Depression hit. And by the time the Depression hit, things were so bad that people were looking to basically live wherever they could for free, and they started taking up residence in Kingsbury Run. So by the time the Kingsbury Run murders, the Torso murders started, this was like a full-fledged, full-swing shanty town, basically. A Great Depression-era Hoover town is what they called them. Yeah,
exactly. So it was a grim scene down there anyway. Certainly the fringes of society. During the course of the investigation, there were accusations of the press that they weren't working as hard as they needed to because these were people on the fringes of society and sort of forgotten about. And I think one of the other people identified was a few months later in January 1936 when they found the body of Flo Polillo. Florence Polillo was a waitress and bartender and a sex worker who was discovered, once again, dismembered, wrapped in newspaper, and a couple of bushel baskets. And then about a week and a half later, found other parts of her body. So she was sort of found in it's very grisly, but found in pieces over the course of a week and a half in different places.
Yeah. Right. So far as anybody can tell, we're up to 3 and possibly 4 victims, if you include the Lady of the Lake. But it wasn't until the following June, about 6 months after Flo Polillo was discovered. Because again, remember, these people were They actually lived on the fringe of society. So just like today, just like Robert Picton, the pig farmer from Vancouver, and so many other serial killers find their victims in like the lowest stations of society because they're the most vulnerable. They have the least protection. And that's kind of what was going on. That's why it took so many victims for the press to finally be like, okay, there's something really going on here. And finally in June, I believe of 1936, victim number 4, as far as canonical victims go, but possibly the 5th victim, was discovered. His head was found first by 2 boys who were playing hooky and fishing along the Cuyahoga.
Can you imagine that, man?
No, I can't, because they found like a balled up pair of trousers and I guess grabbed them and found that there was something in it. And when they opened it up, it was the head of a man in his 20s.
But
He's
again,
never been identified like so many of these victims.
Yeah, and not to trivialize any of this, but again, that stuff is very ripe for movie making.
Totally. This whole thing is, and it really is surprising that no one's done this yet.
Like you wouldn't, you would write something like that in a screenplay, and this actually happened. It's so grisly.
I didn't see, I haven't read it, but there's a graphic novel, and maybe it's a series called Torso that is about all this. And I'm guessing that would probably be a pretty good basis for the movie.
Yeah, so Victim 4, they were making great efforts to find out who this man was. So they actually, the police circulated a photo of his face and made a death mask. If you don't know what a death mask is, I encourage you to go listen to our episode on death masks.
Nice.
It's basically what you would think. It's a recreation of this man's head. And they put this thing along with a tattoo map. He had tattoos all over himself. An illustrated map of his tattoos in this death mask on display at the Great Lakes Exposition of 1936, where, 100,000 people could walk. I mean, it was a smart idea in one way because they had could blast it out in the best way possible to try and identify who this person was. But it was also, again, like something from a movie. These people going to an exposition all of a sudden are walking by this tattoo map and the death mask of this man. And I'm sure the question came up like, well, why is it, where's the rest of his body? Why didn't they just show pictures of the tattoos?
They're like, stop asking questions. Do you know the guy or not? No, go get some ice cream.
Exactly.
Move along. Nothing to see here. But yeah, despite that, very public search for an identification, still has never been identified. And his tattoos were really, he had people's names tattooed on him. He had a cartoon character named Jiggs tattooed on him. So this guy, you could see his face. They had all his tattoos and he still has never been identified. But his discovery, and I think the very public, like the cops circulated a photo of his head on a gurney in the morgue at first before they made the death mask, among other police agencies around the area, and I'm sure to the press as well. So it was kind of public, even though it was kind of quiet, but it got the press's attention, and the press started to connect the dots, and all of a sudden we now were connecting the Lady of the Lake to this latest guy and all of the other ones as well, and it became very clear that there was what they call the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run on the loose in Cleveland, and no one had any idea who it was or when or if they were ever going to stop.
Yeah, I think there were 7 more victims over the next 2 years. Victim 8 were skeletal remains, but they did think they identified this person as Rose Wallace, a woman in her 40s. She had gone missing about a year earlier, and there was quicklime used to decompose this body. And this one, interestingly, had evidence of more of a clumsy dismemberment. To me, this one stands out a little bit as one that possibly might not be a victim and could have been misattributed to the Mad Butcher. That's just my personal feeling. I don't know if anyone else is saying this, but it's the one that stands out to me as being slightly different.
Same to me.
Yeah,
she the killer clearly lacked a dismemberment plan in that case.
Is that a band?
Yeah.
Are they good?
Yeah, they were really good. They were maybe math rock.
Okay. Dismemberment.
I think
plan.
they were.
Nice work.
At the very least, they were alternative.
Victim 9 had his heart removed. Victim 10 had morphine in her system. Mm-hmm. And I think they're not quite sure how they all died. I think at one point they thought most of them died by the decapitation, but some were found with their blood completely drained from their body. Like I said, this one woman had morphine in her system, which could make sense. We'll get to something else later on of a potential victim that never happened where drugs might have been a factor. But, it's sort of all, there were men, there were women, there were black people, there were white people. There wasn't any real rhyme or reason, it seemed like, aside from the fact that they were probably culled from this area of Ohio.
Yes. And the fact that, the first two men were emasculated, that there were women involved too, that somebody's heart had been ripped out. Like there was clearly a sexual element to the whole thing, which made the idea that they were men and woman victims very confounding. You just don't normally see that in a sex killer. You see one or the other, and it's usually the sex that the person is oriented to, are the victims. And then, just to kind of to cap that point off, the killer left victims 11 and 12 within a few yards of one another on a dump, like a trash dump. And one was a woman, victim 11 was a woman, and victim 12 was a man.
Should we take a break?
We should, because Cleveland doesn't know it at the time, but those of us looking through looking backward through history can tell you that this was the last canonical victims in August of 1938. So the killer, as far as anybody knows, is done.
That's right. And most of the grisly stuff is out of the way, and we'll be back to reveal the famous investigator right after this.
Hey everybody, we're here to talk to you about Wayfair, who believes that spaces should be functional, they should be comfortable, they should be well-designed, and they can be well-designed by you with their help.
Your updated space should feel more comfortable, inviting, and practical for everyday use. And we're talking about outdoor seating. We're talking about grills. We're talking about major appliances. If you need storage solutions, Wayfair can help you out. Patio lighting, rugs, decor. It is your one-stop shop for home.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting nice out, so it's time to think about living outdoors for the next few months. And Wayfair knows that outdoor furniture, it's heavy, it's intimidating to assemble. So Wayfair has stepped in and said, we're going to handle the hard part so you don't have to.
That's right. You can shop Wayfair Verified, your shortcut to the good stuff. And that means their team of product specialists are going to vet everything by hand using a 10-point inspection, testing things like, quality materials, functionality, and features, and even how long it takes to build that piece of furniture. And the overall experience save time, reduce hassle, and improved convenience.
Patio season is here, and these deals won't last. So head to wayfair.com right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. That's WAYFAIR.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Running a business is hard enough, so why make it harder with a dozen different apps that don't talk to each other? One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. Before you know it, you are drowning in software instead of growing your business.
And this is where Odoo comes in. Odoo is the only business software you'll ever need. It's an all-in-one, fully integrated platform that handles everything: CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more. No more app overload, no more juggling logins, just one seamless system that makes work easier.
And the best part, Odoo replaces multiple expensive platforms for a fraction of the cost. It's built to grow with your business, whether you're just starting out or already scaling up. Plus, it's easy to use, customizable, and designed to streamline every process. So you can focus on what really matters, which is running your business. Thousands of businesses have made the switch. So why not you?
Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com. If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook, or you just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about. It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, and it's hosted by Cal Penn.
That's right. Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres, from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Yeah, Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now. So if you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start. Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments that matter, for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. Built for the busy days that turn into all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken.
Yeah, the times you're deep in your flow and the absolute last thing you need is an auto update throwing off your momentum. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to the way you actually work. Built with a long-lasting battery so you're not scrambling for the closest outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it.
That's right. They don't build tech just for tech's sake. They build it for you. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
How's that for a tease?
I can't take it anymore, Chuck. Please. Who is it?
It's my favorite thing when you play coy. It was Mr. Elliot Ness, very famous for being the head of the Untouchables, for putting Al Capone behind bars.
Good friend of Sean Connery's?
Very good friend.
Oh, that was great.
That wasn't very good. Because to do
you don't
Connery,
bring a knife to a gunfight. You bring a gun, you dummy.
Yeah, I think that was the line. If you go on to do Connery well, you got to have an esh in there.
Right.
But there was no eshes.
I did that, didn't I? I thought I nailed it.
There aren't no S's in that sentence.
Right. They're implied. That I would have done that had there been S's.
Don't bring a knife to a gun dance. How's that?
Right. You bring a gun, you dummer.
All right. Back to the serious stuff. Elliot Ness was the, after that work in, what was that, Chicago, I think?
Oh, yeah.
He became the alcohol investigator in charge of the alcohol tax unit for Northern Ohio in August of 34. And then the Republican mayoral candidate, Harold Burton, who would go on to win, said, you know what, Ness, you're a famous guy. I like the cut of your jib. Let me make you, in December 1935, the safety director for Cleveland, and let me nudge you towards this outstanding case that we have.
So, yeah, when he was hired, the case wasn't quite clear that it was a big old case. He came in just after, like a couple of months after victims 1 and 2 were found, and just a couple of weeks before Flo Polillo was found. So it wasn't evident that there was a serial murderer on the loose. But that also means that Elliot Ness came in right at the beginning of this thing. So he was the public safety director for it. He became the face of the frustrated police effort to capture the torso killer.
Right. Although the lead investigator, what was that guy's name?
Peter Murillo.
Yeah, he was, I don't know about obsessed, but it became sort of his main focus of work was to tirelessly find out who this murderer was. And I assume that it's weird because I really don't know what a safety director was. I don't think, is that even still a thing?
Yeah, I think there is a public safety director position still. They basically are in charge of the police department, the fire department, basically all that stuff. They're the head of that. They're probably the liaison between the mayor and those services.
But not the guardian angels, because they do what they want to do.
Hey, man, they're standing on their own, too.
The coroner, A.J. Pierce of the case, I think he was the first coroner on the first case, said, you know what we need to do? We need to get together. We need to have a little summit and start sharing information. I'm going to call it the Torso Clinic, which was interesting.
I don't know if he did or the press did.
Yeah, either way, because the press was very much involved in this whole run, obviously. Yeah. But at this conference is where he first put forward a profile, which was, this is someone who would not stand out in Kingsbury run, someone who knew the area, could blend in. Somebody, we think it's a man who is a powerful man because they need to be able to, it takes a lot of work to dismember a body and to haul these bodies around and drop them off in different places. And we think he also might have some anatomical knowledge. I'm not saying that he's necessarily a doctor or a surgeon, kind of like the Jack the Ripper thing, but this person clearly knows their way around a knife and a scalpel.
Yeah, because I mean, if you really closely examine a body and like look at the places where, the body was separated with the knife, you can find hesitancy marks, you can find the hacking. There's all sorts of clues and telltale signs. And apparently this guy had a lot of confidence and had a lot of skill or knowledge about anatomy. So like you said, maybe not a doctor, but at the very least, a very skilled butcher who had studied human anatomy before. But eventually they finally were like, this is probably some sort of doctor.
Yeah, and I think they eventually learned that most of the victims died within a few days of being discovered, and most were moved except for victim 5, where they found a bloodbath. This didn't happen at the other crime scenes. There was virtually no blood to be found. And in fact, I think one was completely drained of blood.
Many were.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So that takes, I don't know if that happened naturally just because of the nature of dismemberment or if it was a purposeful thing, but only one body was found kind of clearly murdered there.
Right. So, I think the fact that the blood wasn't on the scene and it wasn't in the body any longer means that it had to go somewhere. So the fact that they were dismembered and packaged, I mean, like a lot of them were found, the one unidentified tattooed man, his head was wrapped in trousers, but other people's were wrapped in newspaper or brown paper like they were meat. One was put in a makeshift box. There was a lot of time dedicated to the dismemberment of these bodies, and that leaves a lot of evidence. And you need a place where you're not going to be interrupted, and that's not easy to come by. So that became a really big point. Is we're pretty sure that this person is snatching victims from the Kingsbury Run area. But where are they committing these acts? And they tried to find that place as much as they tried to find the killer.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a big clue if they had some murder room, Dexter style.
Sure. That's a dead giveaway every time.
That's coming back, by the way. I don't know if you ever watched Dexter.
What do you mean it's coming back?
They're bringing Dexter back, man.
With the original, Michael C. Hall?
Uh-huh.
No.
Yes, they are, indeed. And I had mixed feelings because we loved that show for a long time, but
until the end.
It is one of the shark jumpier shows of all time.
It's like the shark itself jumped a shark.
I think so.
It's insane. It's amazing.
I mean, I love Michael C. Hall, though. We're just now finishing 6 Feet Under again, so I'm always happy to see him again, but I'll give it a go.
Did you see Cold in July?
No, what is that?
It's a little bit like a Straw Dogs type story, but he's having to battle Don Johnson. It's just really if you want, I know it's weird casting, but if you want to just experience a constant, mid to low level of dread for 2 hours, just go ahead and watch that. It's well done in that respect.
Or watch The Lighthouse. It's probably better.
Good. God, it's so good. Let's just stop talking about this and talk about The Lighthouse for the rest of the time.
All right. So Peter Murillo, who, like we said, was a lead detective, he's sort of obsessed with this thing. He starts not only focusing on this land down by the river, but I didn't mean that, but that's what it was. But he started focusing on the railroads and these hobos.
The what?
The railroads.
Oh, okay.
You know where trains run on?
Sure, yeah. I just never heard it pronounced the way you did the first time.
Railroad?
The railroads. It was hilarious. I got to lighten this up somehow. We're talking about dismembered torsos.
I know, exactly. So he started looking in these boxcars, and is hobo an offensive word? Can you still say that?
I don't think so. I think it's a point of pride, a term of pride.
For people who still ride the rails?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's still out there doing his thing. At this press conference, Elliot Ness ends up holding a meeting with the head of Scientific Investigation Bureau. His name was David Cowles, and an editor of the Cleveland Press. So this is a big deal. They're actually getting the press involved at this point.
Right, but secretly. This wasn't a press conference. This is like a secret meeting. Basically.
Oh, no, not a press conference at all. This was very much in secret. But he's involving the press, and they said, here's what we're going to do. Ness says, you go and pick out 8 tough guys that can go undercover that know a lot of bad guys in Cleveland and have all those connections. We'll give them the police support they need, and we'll fund them. How did they fund them with the press's money? What does that even mean?
I don't know. I think that like maybe the owners of the newspapers chipped in, like the wealthy owners chipped in quietly to pay for this stuff off of the books. That's my impression of what this
And
happened.
whoever chipped in the most got to break the story, I wonder?
But, well, no, I think at the same time it was a technique for bringing the press into the fold so that there weren't outsiders drumming up trouble for the cops anymore. Because the Cleveland press really made they didn't make the police look bad. They pointed out just how badly the police were handling this or ineffectively, which is not to say that the police were not trying really, really hard. Supposedly, I saw a figure of 10,000 suspects were interviewed over 4 years during the course of this investigation. They just couldn't find the guy. They could not find this killer. And the press kind of almost gleefully kept pointing that out.
Right. So this is, in a way, attempt to assuage them and bring them into the inner circle a bit.
Right. That was my impression, yeah.
All right. So the police are, they've got these undercover guys working their scene. They're checking cars randomly at all hours. They're canvassing laundromats and places where you wash your clothes. So, if there are people like trying to get bloodstains out of something, they're kind of doing everything they can at this point. And this is where the Coen brothers sort of moment comes in, which is in Sandusky, a dog, and Sandusky's now it's about an hour or 10 minutes away by car. I don't know what it would have been back then, but probably less than 2 hours, I would say, even in an old-timey car. A dog shows up in Sandusky with a human leg in its mouth. I want to say that literally happened in a Coen brothers movie. It might have just been a bone of a body. But I can't think of which one it might be. Someone will write in and tell us. But
it sounds like a Barton Fink kind of thing.
It is, but it's not. So, or I might be thinking of the kids who ripped the toupee off the guy in Miller's Crossing in the alleyway.
I don't remember that part. Although I remember one of the neighbors lost his toupee in the Burbs, and they thought it was evidence of his murder.
There's definitely a movie. It might not have been Coen Brothers where a dog shows up with a body part in its mouth. Probably more than one movie. But this dog shows up in its mouth, and Morello goes to Sandusky, and it turns out that the leg was actually surgically removed during a real surgery, not a serial killer surgery, and just didn't get disposed of right. Ended up in the lake. Ended up in the dog's mouth.
Right, but the police were so hyped up in Cleveland at the time that they traveled to Sandusky to chase down this lead, which, like all the other ones, went absolutely nowhere. And so there was again, like just a tremendous amount of public pressure, including something you mentioned earlier, too, a lot of allegations and accusations that the police weren't doing enough because these people were not wealthy, were not well thought of. They were, very poor. The poorest of the poor during the Great Depression were the ones who were suffering this serial killer. And so there was a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think my impression is that pressure is one of the thing that drove Eliot Ness to do something really terrible. Because the killer was picking from the shantytowns of Kingsbury Run, Eliot Ness got it in his head that if you did away with Kingsbury Run, you'd do away with the killings. Yeah. And so he raided the homeless camps at Kingsbury Run and rousted everybody, and then ordered the place burned to the ground.
Yeah, and I'm sure he thought this was a great idea at the time, but he really didn't think it through because the people of Cleveland did not take kindly to that. They hated him for what he did, and this was during the Depression, and everyone was struggling basically, or not everyone, but most people were struggling at this point. Unemployment rate of 20% in Cleveland, and so the idea of this big shot Chicago G-man coming in and basically running these homeless people out of their only option and burning it to the ground was not a good look at all. However, there were no more murders after that.
I know. Strangely, it seemed to have worked. And it depends. We'll talk more about, a lot of different views of whether the murder stopped or not. But as far as canonical victims go, this he burned the place to the ground 2 days after victims 11 and 12 were found. And after that, there were no more victims. So it didn't solve the murders by any stretch of the imagination, but it seemed to have put an end to them, weirdly.
Yeah, I think before we take a break, we should mention there was one and get into the who we think is probably the real suspect. There was one suspect in Cuyahoga County that the sheriff brought in. He was a bricklayer named Frank Dolezal, who did confess. He was brought in for the murder of Flo Polillo originally because he had lived with her for a little while, but supposedly he knew Rose Wallace and Edward Andrassy as well. But then they looked into it, and by all accounts, that confession was not just induced, but in the days where you would literally beat a victim into confessing.
Yeah, and then murder him in his cell after he recanted his confession.
So was he murdered?
Yeah, he hung himself, but he hung himself from a hook that was shorter than he was.
One of those deals.
I guess if you really, really want to die, you could do that. You could overcome the
urge to stand up,
disinclination towards self-harm, I guess you'd put it.
Yeah,
but his friends at the time seemed to be like, no, he was murdered. So it's at the very least his confession was beaten out of him, and no serious scholar of the crime believes that Frank Dolezal was the killer. He didn't have any. There was no evidence whatsoever of any kind of surgical knowledge. There was like a lot of boxes he just didn't check. It was basically he knew Flo, and he may have known Edward Andrassy, and he may have known Rose Wallace, and the sheriff basically ran him in very publicly.
Right. All right. So let's take that break. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the investigation and who people now believe committed these horrible murders right after this.
Running a business is hard enough, so why make it harder with a dozen different apps that don't talk to each other? One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. Before you know it, you are drowning in software instead of growing your business.
And this is where Odoo comes in. Odoo is the only business software you'll ever need. It's an all-in-one, fully integrated platform that handles everything: CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more. No more app overload, no more juggling logins, just one seamless system that makes work easier.
And the best part, Odoo replaces multiple expensive platforms for a fraction of the cost. It's built to grow with your business, whether you're just starting out or already scaling up. Plus, it's easy to use, customizable, and designed to streamline every process, so you can focus on what really matters, which is running your business. Thousands of businesses have made the switch, so why not you?
Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com. If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook, or you just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about. It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, and it's hosted by Cal Penn.
That's right. Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres, from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Yeah, Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now. So if you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start. Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments that matter, for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. Built for the busy days that turn into all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken.
Yeah, the times you're deep in your flow and the absolute last thing you need is an auto update throwing off your momentum. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to the way you actually work. Built with a long-lasting battery so you're not scrambling for the closest outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it.
That's right. They don't build tech just for tech's sake. They build it for you. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/DellPCs. built for you.
The universe is full of mysteries. Black holes, quantum physics, galaxies. On TikTok, millions of people are learning more about the universe around them every day. Scientists break down complex theories, demonstrate experiments, and connect dots between the cosmos and our daily lives. One scroll might reveal the concepts on the fabric of space-time, the next an optical illusion. It's discovery on a massive scale, where millions learn something new every day.
All right. So Elliot Ness has run everyone out of the Kingsbury Run camps. Did not go over well. He then says, here's what we'll do. Let's skirt the warrant rules so we don't have to require warrants. And let's get together, since I'm the safety director and I control the fire department too, let's go around and start searching for, quote, fire code violations, end quote. Basically, so they don't have to get any kind of warrants and they can just basically go into people's houses and just at will and search and do whatever they want to under the guise of searching for fire code violations. He was desperate.
He was very desperate. And again, they were looking not just for the killer, but really more than anything, they were looking for that grisly workshop, as the Cleveland Plain Dealer had put it, a place where he was, draining the victims of their blood and dismembering their bodies. They didn't turn anything up, but it really kind of goes to show like just what lengths Elliot Ness, who was considered like this squeaky clean lawman, was willing to go to. This is extraordinarily unconstitutional and underhanded, and he went to that degree and well beyond, it turned out, actually, too. Very much. And I think we're at the point now where we can talk about this mystery person, right? Yeah, this is why I said he went way beyond, unlawful search of homes. He actually engaged in what amounts to kidnapping of a private citizen who he thought was the killer. Yeah, and he kept it very secret. He even used a pseudonym for this person. He called this person, this gentleman, Gaylord Sundheim. Pretty good name, a good hotel check-in name. Yeah. And privately, he, word gets around a little bit what's going on, but privately he would describe this person as an alcoholic, maybe bisexual, a doctor who came from a wealthy family and who had a relative in Congress who was protecting this person. Yes. And took this man under the dark of night to a hotel room in Cleveland, held there without charging him for 2 weeks, where they interrogated this person. Yes, and apparently the guy this Gaylord Sundheim was in the middle of a bender when he was picked up, and he was so profoundly drunk that it took him 3 days to become sober again. I don't buy that. I know, but
That's a story.
When he did, I know, but you got to add those too. Sure. Thank you for keeping it even keel, though. I mean, I've had nights that were a little rough. And you're always okay the next day. I don't know what you're talking about. It's so weird. Like, alcohol affects us so differently, man. I can have like a drink and a half these days, and I'm like hating life the next day. No, I'm not talking about a hangover, but you're not still drunk the next day. Oh, gotcha. Or in 2 days or 3 days. I think that's what they were saying, is that this guy he had like a hangover stupor, basically. Oh, okay. That lasted I could buy that then. That was my impression. All right. Not that he was still just flying high, but that he was just hating it. All right. I should just shut up about the whole thing. But regardless, they kept him, whether he was sober as a judge or, drunk as a skunk when they picked him up. They held him in this hotel room without charge and outside of the legal system for 2 weeks and interrogated him for up to 8 hours a day. Yeah, but I think he did it, so who cares? That's exactly how Elliot Ness was approaching this. And again, everybody thought he was this squeaky clean lawman, and he's engaged in kidnapping. But the thing is, he brought in the guy who was one of the early inventors of the polygraph. He invented the Keeler polygraph, and it was called that because his name was Leonard Keeler. And I think he brought him from Chicago. And Leonard Keeler administered a couple of different polygraph tests to this Gaylord Sondheim, and said, if this isn't your man, I might as well throw my machine out the window or if I say anything else, because that guy, that's the guy. It's definitely the guy. And you got to take that with a grain of salt, because, especially today, polygraphs are just total junk science. But it certainly confirmed Ness's suspicions that much more at the time.
I think that polygraph back then there wasn't even a machine. Keeler would just sit there and look for a bead of sweat to break out on the forehead, then
right.
punch the guy if it did.
That's right, exactly.
So the case was never solved. Ness's reputation obviously took a big hit. He eventually got out of Cleveland after a drunk driving hit and run accident that he was involved with and tried to cover up. So he left in great shame. But back to this Gaylord Sondheim. Later on, many years later, there were crime investigators and writers who put two and two together and basically identified, and in fact, in one case, crime writer Marilyn Bardsley came out and said, yeah, this is who this person was. It was a former World War I Army medic who was discharged for mental instability following head trauma, which was big warning lights going off. And he was an alcoholic, another big warning light. And his name was Francis Edward Sweeney, who also happens to have a relative in Congress.
Right. A guy named Representative Martin Sweeney, who was a huge critic of the Burton administration, of which Eliot Ness was a major part. And he was just the kind of guy who was a political opponent to the degree that I'm sure Eliot Ness thought if he tried to arrest Clarence or Francis Sweeney, he would be obstructed, from up on high by this congressperson. Whether he would have or not, I don't know. I saw some references to the idea that Martin Sweeney was well aware that Eliot Ness was looking at his cousin for this and was already getting in the way. But I only saw that on one place, so I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Either way, his presence and his connection to Francis Sweeney was enough that Eliot Ness never charged Francis Sweeney, despite apparently going to his grave believing that Dr. Francis Edward Sweeney was the Cleveland torso murderer.
Have you seen a picture of the guy?
Dude.
He looks like the definition of a torso murderer.
If you like, seriously, you have to be careful with that stuff. Especially
I know,
if you ever end up a juror, you can't be like, you look like a killer, but this guy looks like a torso murderer. You're exactly right.
The quick sidebar, I'm not sure if I ever mentioned it on this show. I know I've talked about it on a Movie Crush, but I want to recommend this great, great documentary. And forgive me if I'm repeating myself here, but it's called Crazy, Not Insane. It's an HBO documentary about this doctor, Dr. Dorothy Otno Lewis, who basically spent her life trying to understand serial killers. And one of the she was kind of one of the first people to really try and understand what's actually going on. And she put together, I think, like three very commonalities among serial killers. But one of them is head trauma. And that's why this really stands out to me about Francis Edward Sweeney, was that he was discharged from the Army because of head trauma leading to mental instability. It's a commonality in most serial killers is some sort of head trauma, especially when you're younger.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, and I thought I talked about it on this, but it was who was the guy in L.A. that also just had a great docuseries on the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. He suffered multiple head traumas when he was younger as well. So I think it's I can't remember the third one. It's head trauma, some sort of physical and even sexual abuse as a child. And then there was like one more thing. And those are like, that's just a recipe for ending up some sort of sociopath or serial killer.
I think the third one is disappointing birthday presents.
Yeah, maybe so.
Be warned, parents.
It's a great, you'd really love it. It's a really good documentary.
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure. It sounds like it's totally up my alley. I'm actually agog that I've not heard of it.
Don't be agog.
I'm a little agog.
All right, come back.
So, like you said, Marilyn Bardsley confirmed from one of the investigators that Francis Sweeney was Gaylord Sondheim. But that does not mean that Francis Sweeney was the torso murderer.
True.
Although, again, like you were saying, if you look at a picture of Francis Sweeney, you're like, that's totally the torso murderer.
Well, and other stuff, the head trauma, the medical training. He was a surgeon in residence at St. Alexis Hospital. His career deteriorated because of his drinking.
Right around the time the first murderer victims started showing up, too.
Yeah, he also had a deal, apparently, with a local mortuary where they would give him bodies to practice surgery on, which would explain maybe the kill room or the dismemberment room. He would have a place to go and dispose of these bodies without, there being a big blood trail,
Right. I mean, this is a place where it wouldn't seem weird that somebody was decapitating a body or draining the body of all of its blood. Like, that's exactly the kind of place. And that didn't turn up until years later. And it was thanks to a guy named James Badal, who's written some books on it, on the Torso murders. And he interviewed one of the early investigators and found out that he had privileges at that funeral home and started to put two and two together.
Yeah, there was a couple of other things. He did send taunting letters to Elliot Ness for years.
Yeah.
One of them was signed F.E. Sweeney, Paranoidal Nemesis.
Yeah.
But was this after he had been kidnapped by Ness?
Yes. So he knew Ness by this time. And he also didn't say, like, I did it, you didn't catch me, anything like that. I get the impression it was more like, you didn't catch the guy, you're terrible at this, everybody hates you. But still taunting stuff. But yes, this would have been after he was kidnapped, because this was up into like the 40s.
Yeah, that's true. And then I think, to me, one of the biggest red flags pointing in the direction of Sweeney is, I mentioned a near victim earlier in the episode. This was a transient. His name was Emil Fronek, and he was living in Cleveland in 1934. And one day he was lured into a doctor's office on the second floor along Broadway Avenue. And the doctor said, here, I'll give you some shoes and a meal if you come up here. Fronek goes up, eats a little bit of the meal, starts to feel lightheaded, and bolts and makes it to a train car and basically passes out for 3 days. And then later on, I think in 1938, was being interviewed after the cops hear about this. Old Morello goes to pick him up, and they narrow down the area to 50th to 55th Streets along Broadway, where Sweeney had a doctor's office.
Yeah, he couldn't specifically say that was the place where it happened.
Right.
And that author James Badal says that he thinks he came in the back way rather than the front way where they were showing him. But he did say he had an office right there, right around that area. So, and he was there at the time. That's some pretty serious circumstantial stuff.
I think so.
But the thing is, there's no smoking gun. There's no anything that says definitively, and we probably will never have anything definitively that says it's Francis Sweeney.
Right.
So we've kind of reached this point, this plateau where it's like you just basically choose a side. Either, it's Francis Sweeney or it wasn't. And some people who say, no, I don't think it was Francis Sweeney, make some pretty good cases. There were other similar murders in the area starting in the 20s and going into the 50s that really bore a lot of resemblance to the Torso murders. And then other people say, okay, I feel the opposite of that, where there's I don't think Rose Wallace was one of the victims. I think there were multiple killers doing similar-ish stuff, maybe copycats even, and that it wasn't all just one person. There is and there's probably always going to be a lot of competing theories about who was responsible.
Yeah, the one theory that it wasn't him that I don't buy. Did you say where he was living in Sandusky?
No, huh?
All right, so here's the deal. Francis Sweeney was apparently enrolled or checked into the Soldiers and Sailors Home in Sandusky, which I guess is an old, like a veteran's home, right?
Yeah, I think, yes.
So that's what it seems like. So he was checked in there, and one of the reasons that people say he didn't do it was because he was checked in this place in Sandusky, like a couple hours away, and I just don't buy that. They later came out and said, they could come and go as they pleased. He could easily have, if he didn't want to get caught, be committing these murders in Cleveland and then going back to Sandusky as well.
Right. Yeah, because he was there voluntarily, so he would not have been watched or monitored, or they wouldn't have kept tabs on him. Right. And when they figured this out, it was years later, so no one would have been able to recall where he was or wasn't on a certain day,
Yeah, I think it's Sweeney.
Yeah, I think there's
and
a
not
pretty
because
good
of his
chance
picture.
Sweeney too. But there were other murders in the area that, it could have still been Sweeney too. Some people connect the Black Dahlia murder to it because there was a taunting note that the cops got in 1938 that said the cops can rest easy because the killers moved to sunny California. But if you look at the Black Dahlia murder, there's really not a lot of resemblance between the two. the MOs are really rather different. So that's probably not the case.
Agreed.
Well, if you want to know more about the Cleveland torso murders, there's a whole rabbit hole on the internet and in books, including one by James Badal and another by Marilyn Bardsley that you can follow. And if you do, good luck with that. Since I said good luck with that, it's time for listener mail.
I'm going to call this, we did not help out this gentleman.
Okay. Oh, no.
Hey, guys, love the podcast. I've been listening for the past several years. I've almost gotten through the whole library. Has some left from 2018, apparently. I work as a musical instrument repair technician at a local university and independently in Greensboro, North Carolina, so I usually listen while I work on re-padding clarinets and cleaning tubas.
Nice.
Cool job. Anyway, I was listening to your show this evening on Korean fan death. Remember that? We talked about it. I don't think it was all about that, but it was...
It was the short stuff about it.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I remember that being like a top 10 or something. Anyway, I immediately thought, finally, a way that I can find some legit reason for getting rid of the fan in our room. My fiance, Abby, loves having a fan and that noise when we go to sleep. It's something I can deal with, but honestly, I do not care for it. So when I finally got home, I told Abby, hey, we got a serious episode of stuff you should know we should listen to. I started the episode without pre-screening and trusted you guys would pull through for me. Needless to say, an interesting episode, but I did not get the confirmation bias I was looking for. Instead, we had a good laugh and a great evening. Looking forward to getting the book. I wish you guys the best and looking forward to many more. And that is from John Goodman.
Holy cow, John Goodman. We love you in the Coen Brothers stuff.
His name's John Goodman. I'm going to plug his business, Goodman Custom Woodwinds. If you're in the Greensboro, North Carolina area and you need that clarinet repadded, go to John Goodman.
For sure. And even if you're not, it's probably worth the drive, right?
I mean, where else are you going to do it? Charlotte?
Yeah. Come on. Give me
Heck no.
Well, thanks a lot, John Goodman. We appreciate that. Sorry we couldn't help you out, but at least you enjoyed the episode. And ultimately, isn't that what counts?
Yes.
If you want to get in touch with us like John Goodman did, you can send us an email to stuffpodcast@iheartradio.com.
Stuff You Should Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Service opens doors, and at American Military University, it can open doors for the whole family. If you have a loved one who served in the military, you may qualify for reduced tuition. AMU offers flexible online programs designed to fit your schedule, so you can keep moving forward wherever life takes you. Learn more at amu.apus.edu/military. Open doors to the future for you and your family with the help of American Military University.
Running a business is hard enough. Don't make it harder with a dozen apps that don't talk to each other. One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. That's software overload. Odoo is the all-in-one platform that replaces them all. CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, fully integrated, easy to use, and built to grow with your business. Thousands have already made the switch. Why not you? Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
Geico presents a 30-second podcast between your podcast. Today's story is shared by one of our listeners. It's called Betrayed by Bill. It was in that moment I caught who was staring back at me in betrayal. Or more like what? My insurance bill. With trembling hands, I grabbed my phone and switched to Geico, saving about $900 in the process, and never to be betrayed again. Now that was bloody riveting.
It feels good when the story ends with savings. It feels good to Geico.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.